Welcome to Tax Breaks. I'm your host, Kelly Phillips Erb. I'm a senior writer for Forbes, and you might have seen me around the web as Tax Girl. I'm also a tax attorney, and I work with tax professionals and taxpayers like you every day. There's a lot to talk about, so let's get started. This week, we're thinking about retirement. When I was younger, I once spent an entire summer with my great-grandmother, who famously and preciously told me that I sounded just like a Philadelphia lawyer. Her house was in Greenville, South Carolina, a town my 12-year-old self would have described as a bit sleepy. What a difference a few decades make. This year, that Greenville made Forbes' list of best places to retire, alongside 24 other cities like Athens, Georgia, and Apache Junction, Arizona. To assemble the list, Forbes compared more than 950 locales in America with populations above 10,000 on everything from housing costs to healthcare, air quality, crime, climate change, and natural hazard risk. And since money matters, especially for many retirees, Forbes also looked at state taxes, including marginal tax rates, income tax exemptions for Social Security benefits, and other retirement income, as well as the existence of state estate or inheritance taxes. Before you assume that my aversion to sleepy towns is somehow rooted in a childhood otherwise jam-packed with urban adventures, it may help to know that the town I grew up in was much less exciting. I tried to determine the population count from when I was a kid and came up empty. But 15 years ago, following years of growth, the census reported a population of 4,083. So when I say it was rural, it was indeed rural. And resources were limited. We didn't even have a library in my town when I was younger. Television service was spotty and expensive, but we got Public Broadcasting System television, or PBS, for free. We could typically watch ABC and NBC, and if the weather was just right, and if my brother held the antenna a certain way, we could occasionally get CBS. But PBS was how folks in my town watched television, especially educational television and news. That made me a PBS kid. Our family was an NPR, or National Public Radio, family. So when I reported on President Donald Trump's executive order cutting federal funding for NPR and PBS, I brought that perspective with me. I am not neutral on that issue, and that's exactly why I wrote it. That wasn't the only entertainment-related news this week. Monday, May the 4th, was unofficially Star Wars Day, based on the iconic phrase, "May the Force be with you." I spent the day watching the original Star Wars movies with my family and writing up the tax consequences of the first movie, including the gift tax consequences of Luke getting that lightsaber. If you weren't previously aware, the concept of the movie actually hinged on trade wars and tariffs, as explained in the fourth film in the Star Wars series and the first film in the prequel trilogy. That look is the first of the series for summer. If you have a movie for me to review, especially those with an interesting tax or financial crimes twist, send an email to kerb@forbes.com for consideration. Now let's answer a taxpayer question. This week, a taxpayer asked, "I'm retiring this year. How early can I take Social Security?" Well, first, congrats on your retirement. And now, here's my answer. How much you receive in Social Security retirement benefits depends on your age. You can receive your Social Security retirement benefits as early as age 62. However, you'll only receive your full benefits if you wait until your full retirement age to claim your money. For those born between 1943 and 1954, your full retirement age is 66. For those born after 1960, your full retirement age is 67. For those born between 1955 and 1959, your full retirement age is between ages 66 and 67. You can find out exactly when it is by clicking over to the Social Security Administration website and plugging in your birthday. The longer you wait, generally, the higher your monthly payment will be. Specifically, if you wait to take your benefits from your full retirement age until age 70, your benefit amount will increase. If you receive benefits early, your benefits will be reduced by a small percentage for each month before your full retirement age. You can figure out how much your benefit will be reduced if you receive benefits from age 62 to your full retirement age by clicking over to the Social Security Administration website. You can also check your online account to see how much you'll get when you apply at different times between ages 62 and 70. If you're eligible because of a spouse's work, the amount doesn't increase if you wait. If your spouse has passed away, you may be eligible for survivor benefits starting at age 60 or at age 50 if you're disabled. You've noted that you've recently retired, but if you were to continue to work, it could impact your benefits. If you claim benefits and continue to work before you reach your full retirement age, your benefit payment will be temporarily reduced if you earn more than the earnings limit for your age. You can work after your full retirement age and earn as much as you like without reducing your benefit. And some more good news. Social Security and Supplemental Security income benefits increased by 2.5% in 2025 for more than 72.5 million Americans. On average, Social Security retirement benefits increased about $50 per month starting in January of this year. If you have a tax question or matter that you think we should cover in the next episode, let us know. You'll find more information in the show notes. Of course, if you follow me on Forbes, you know that I love looking at statistics and enjoy a good chart or map. This week, I'm focusing on baby names and Social Security. Once again, the most popular names for babies born in the United States are Liam and Olivia. The second most popular names, Emma and Noah, also didn't budge. The rankings are measured by the Social Security Administration data based on applications for Social Security cards. According to agency data, Social Security numbers were recorded for 3,612,777 new babies, with male births being 1,845,330 and edging out female births at 1,767,447 in 2024. That reflects an increase over 2023, which recorded just 3,595,309 new babies. It reverses just slightly a trend of fewer births in the U.S. since the highest year on record, 2007, which welcomed 4,330,961 new babies. The lists are compiled from names on Social Security card applications. Today, getting a Social Security number at birth typically happens when you submit the information for a birth certificate. If you decline to get a Social Security number for your child when you submit the information for the birth certificate, you can always apply later. But that's a little more difficult and time-consuming, since the Social Security Administration will have to verify your child's birth certificate. That could be even more of a challenge if Social Security offices close due to potential budget cuts, a change that the agency has so far labeled as false. Why get a Social Security number at birth? Taxes. Your child must have a Social Security number for you to claim your child as a dependent on your income tax return. If you can't claim your child as a dependent, you can't claim certain tax breaks, including the Earned Income Tax Credit, the Child Tax Credit, and the Additional Child Tax Credit. Additionally, without a Social Security number for your child, you can't file as head of household or qualifying widow with a dependent child. Your child may also need a number if you plan to open a bank account, including a 529 savings plan, or buy savings bonds for your child's benefit, get medical coverage or insurance for them, or apply for government services on their behalf. Now it's time for a little tax trivia. In the television show The Golden Girls, which TV character was audited by the IRS? Your choices are A. Blanche, B. Dorothy, C. Rose, D. Sophia. I'll give you a minute. The answer is B, Dorothy. In a season 3 episode titled The Audit, Dorothy and her ex-husband Stan are audited by the IRS. The auditor tells them they owe $5,000. According to the auditor, if they don't pay up each $2,500, they'll go to jail. A few quick notes. Married couples who file jointly remain responsible for the joint bill after a divorce. The show got that right. However, as far as the IRS is concerned, a married couple is jointly and severally liable for the total. That means that the IRS can collect from either or both. You can petition the IRS to sever the liability so that you're each only responsible for half, but that's not very common. And one more thing. If you simply can't pay your tax bill, the IRS won't toss you in jail. We don't have a debtor's prison system. That said, it is a crime to evade taxes or hide income or assets to avoid payment. Those actions can land you in jail. Now it's time for a deeper dive, and it's a look at artificial intelligence or AI. While artificial intelligence or AI can take many forms, it's largely technology that allows computers and machines to simulate human learning, problem solving, and decision making. That's a broad statement, but that's because it's powerful technology, and we're still figuring out what it can do, especially when it comes to tax. The IRS already uses AI to select individuals and partnerships for audit, identify fraud, and perform other compliance and enforcement functions. But that doesn't mean that machines alone can run the IRS. A Government Accountability Office study on government use of AI confirms that it requires both high quality data and a skilled workforce to truly recognize the benefits. That workforce is shrinking, as a recent report from the Treasury Inspector General for Tax Administration found, noting that there have been IRS job losses in every state, the District of Columbia, and Puerto Rico. IRS AI use includes chatbots like the interactive tax assistant on the IRS website, which can answer a number of questions you might have about your tax obligations, such as, do I have to file a tax return? Or when is my tax return due? But limitations still exist. Remember that AI answers questions based on what information has been provided. That can result in simplexity, described as occurring when the law is complex and the government doesn't simplify the underlying law and instead presents a law as though it is simple. The result can be that the government can present formal law as something than what it actually is. There are also challenges in the private sector. In a recent U.S. tax court case, Dealers Auto Auction of Southwest LLC versus Commissioner, an Arizona company purchased specialized software intended to assist with compliance in preparing Form 8300. Despite having the software in place, the IRS determined that the company failed to file the required forms and assessed $118,440 in penalties. While the tax court rejected the IRS's blanket assertion that software malfunctions cannot qualify for reasonable cause, it did not provide penalty relief. The company could not convince the tax court that the software was really to blame. As AI attempts to take more human interaction out of the tax process, it will be interesting to see how reasonableness is determined. Generally, taxpayers prove reasonable cause by detailing facts and circumstances that show that they acted with business care and prudence, notwithstanding the compliance failure. But in some instances, taxpayers can't raise the reasonable cause defense as a matter of law. For example, in U.S. v. Boyle, the U.S. Supreme Court held that taxpayers can't use reasonable cause as a defense for a late filing penalty if the taxpayer merely relied on a tax professional to file the return. The government raised Boyle in Dealers Auto and in a second court case filed in tax court, Murphy versus U.S. The lesson to be learned from both? Taxpayers should attempt to distinguish between reliance on a tax professional to file a tax return by a filing deadline, not reasonable cause, and reliance on a tax professional to advise on the necessity of a certain filing obligation, potentially reasonable cause. And that's a wrap. Thanks to all of you who continue to watch, comment, and share the show. I'd love to hear what you thought of this episode. You can send an email with your feedback to kerb@forbes.com. And if you liked it, please share. You can find a link to the audio of each episode on Forbes.com. And thanks for listening, because paying taxes is painful, but hearing about them shouldn't have to be.